What's happening, family? Listen, I wanted to do this video because recently I was asked a very good question about coming out of narcissistic abuse and basically what it is that I've learned coming out of narcissistic abuse. And I thought that would be a real easy question to answer, but the more and more I thought about how to answer that question, I realized how multifaceted my answer had to be. And I was doing this video because I'm hoping that maybe it will help some of you guys understand how to process what it is that you went through. Because when I started to answer that question, I started to realize that I had to answer that question from before I knew what NPD was. So I had to start kind of looking at some of the red flags that I overlooked and some of the things that I missed and some of the behaviors that I didn't pay attention to coming into narcissistic abuse. But then I also had to learn, I guess, some of the techniques that I learned how to actually deal with this person while we were actually involved and all of that kind of stuff. And then I had to, I guess, process my the things that I learned after the discard and the things that I learned, about myself and about spirituality and, all of the things that come along after you learn about narcissistic abuse. So I had to break that down into several different parts. And because I had to break it down into several different parts, I figured I would do a couple different videos, but I wanted to give a clear cut answer when I responded to the question at that time. So at that time, the answer that I went with was to not allow people to stay in their comfort zone. And the person that was asking the question, he asked me, "Why is that one of the biggest things that you learned coming out of narcissistic abuse?" And then I said, "Well, what I've learned is it's very easy for somebody that's wearing a mask to continue to wear a mask as long as they're in their comfort zone." And that's one of the things that I didn't pick up on. That's one of the things that I kind of had to learn, I guess, during the relationship and then after the relationship was over, was that pretty much the entire time I never took her out of her own comfort zone. And a lot of that wasn't necessarily by my design. A lot of that was, I guess, she kind of played on the fact that she knew that I was extremely busy. I was I have a professional life that I tend to, and I also had, a business life, entrepreneurial life outside of that I tended to. So it was very easy for her to clock my schedule, to know when it was that I was going to work, when it was that I was coming home, the times that I would be home. So it was very easy for her to just come over, play her part during the time that I was home and things like that, because she knew that, oh, well, in a few hours he'll be going to work, or in a few hours he'll be handling some business associated with, all of the other things that he has going on. So it was very easy to clock my schedule and to kind of alter the mask to fit that schedule. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. So, excuse me, guys. I'm got a little bit of a cold, and I'm trying to fight through it right now. But basically, that was one of the things that I learned, was that by allowing somebody that much access to me, and that's one of the things that the narcissist is trying to do when they first get to know you, is they're always surrounding themselves with you because they are trying to learn how you tick. They're trying to learn how you move. They're trying to learn, your schedule, things like that. That all makes things easier for them to use it against you later on. And that was one of the things that I didn't realize. And another thing that I didn't realize that I was doing was, um, I allow people to come into my comfort zone without any, I guess, checks and balances on, allowing them to actually come into my comfort zone. But then also, what we don't realize about comfort zones is when you get stuck into your own comfort zone, you can be a victim of your own zone as well. You know what I'm saying? So these people are coming in and they're mirroring you, and they're figuring out like I said, they're figuring out your time schedule. They're figuring out how you tick. They're figuring out, oh, he goes to work at this time, that time. So it's very easy. It's very, very easy for somebody to come in that has a predatory mindset, somebody that has a predatory mindset that wants to come in and disrupt your life in any type of way or just infiltrate your life in any type of way. It's very easy for them to do once they have a good hold on how it is that you're moving out here. So that's one of the main things, is that I didn't take this person out of her own comfort zone. And one of the reasons why I say you have to really take these people out of their comfort zone is because what I started to notice is that whenever we were out of our comfort zone, whenever there was a situation where uh, she was kind of forced to be out of her comfort zone or whatever the case may be, it changed her behavior. And I was able to see some of the behaviors a little bit more clearly because she had to put on a front for everybody else that was around. So like I said, one thing that I noticed is she would like to come to my house basically after work where there was nobody but me and her. And it was very easy for her to just keep the mask on, and just because how I met her is just basically that's how she had to stay during the time that she was around me, because it was kind of like, okay, well, I met you like this, you like me like this when I met you like this, so I don't really have to change up much. But what I started to notice is when I would invite company over and she wasn't comfortable with that company, she would try to adjust her behaviors. And then in those adjustments, in people don't realize how much small adjustments will alert you to certain behaviors that you wouldn't have seen if you were just in your natural, comfortable element, like kicking around in your pajamas or whatever the case may be, and you're just living on a, you're in your comfort zone. So people don't realize um, how easy it is to figure out your patterns and all of that kind of stuff when they're hanging around you, when they're always in your mix, when they're always trying to figure out, when they're always trying to figure out your schedule, when they're always trying to figure out um, how busy you actually are as far as your entrepreneurial life, all of that kind of stuff. All of those things take a big place in narcissistic abusive relationships. And like I said, one of the things that I didn't realize that I was doing was I was, because my time was so limited, because of my professional life and because of my personal life, my personal entrepreneurial life and things like that, it was very easy for this person to come in, figure out what time I had, and figure out how to, create a mask that will fit that time slot. And basically, I didn't have a lot of time, and that's one of the reasons why it's kind of, when you're dating, even if it might take you out of your own, uh, I would say convenience, like sometimes it will take you out of your way conveniently, but some of those inconvenient times may give you an opportunity to see this person in a different light. And that's one of the things that, like I said, I can always say that when I took this person out in the public, there was a switch in the behavior, and I would catch it every time. And I would be like, well, why you moving like that? Or why you acting like this? And like I said, some of those red flags stood out to me a lot more once I took her out of the comfort zone. And also just introducing people that she's not comfortable with into the comfort zone. That was also taken, because so she could be very comfortable at my house, but like I said, if my sister would come over, or my best friend, or people that she didn't feel very comfortable with, because she was more comfortable when it was just her and I, because she knew that I saw her the way that I saw her. But somebody else coming into the situation wouldn't see her the same way that I saw her, because they weren't looking with the same set of lenses that I was wearing at the time. So like I said, I just wanted to drop this video because I feel like maybe it'll help some of you guys process, the different levels of the things that you learn coming out of narcissistic abuse. And I hope that, you guys find value in the content, find value in this video. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And I love you guys from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with the channel. Like I said, and I'll be doing a lot more videos soon about other things that I learned, because like I said, there were things that I learned from different stages of the game. So there were a lot of red flags that I could list that I overlooked, some subtle, some obvious. But there was a lot of things that I can say, hindsight is 2020. So looking back on the situation, I could say, oh yeah, well, I would have done this differently, or would have done that differently, or but I wanted to give a clear cut and concise, direct answer when I was asked that question. So that was one of the first things that I could say, is to take people out of their comfort zone, because it's very easy for them to wear their mask while they're in the comfort zone. So love you guys. Now I'll let y'all soon.